Early morning, federal agents descended on Zak Bagans' Las Vegas mansion. Black SUVs, armed FBI, search warrants. This wasn't about ghosts, this was criminal. What they found inside wasn't just disturbing, it was illegal. Human remains without permits, stolen artifacts from war zones, items matching missing persons cases, evidence from unsolved murders, sacred objects taken from native graves, a trafficking network spanning continents. Zak built his empire on cursed objects. Turns out they were cursed because they were stolen. From crime scenes, from burial sites, from victims' families. Subscribe now because what the FBI discovered changes everything. The Haunted Museum is closed. Ghost Adventures is canceled. Criminal charges are coming, and the ghost hunter is about to face decades in prison. This is what federal agents found inside Zak Bagans' mansion, and why his career is over. At 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, multiple black SUVs pulled up to Zak Bagans' luxury mansion in an exclusive Las Vegas gated community. At least 15 armed FBI agents in tactical gear exited the vehicles and approached the property. Neighbors waking up for work witnessed the commotion. Federal agents blocked off the street. Within minutes, local news helicopters arrived overhead capturing aerial footage. This wasn't a wellness check or routine visit. This was a full-scale federal raid on one of paranormal television's biggest stars. Zak's mansion sits in a gated community where properties are worth $3 million or more. His neighbors include celebrities and wealthy business people who value privacy and security. The sight of armed federal agents was shocking and unprecedented for the quiet neighborhood. Multiple neighbors recorded video on their phones showing agents entering and exiting the property, repeatedly carrying boxes and evidence bags. The raid wasn't quick. Federal agents remained on scene for over 8 hours, methodically searching every room. Zak was home when agents arrived and was cooperative according to initial reports, though witnesses described him as visibly shaken and distressed. This wasn't his public haunted museum location. This was his private residence where he kept his personal collection away from tourists and cameras. The items inside this mansion were things Zak didn't want the public to see. The search warrant was federal, not local police, indicating serious crimes under federal jurisdiction. It had been signed by a federal judge based on months of investigation. The warrant specifically listed items for seizure related to artifact trafficking and potential international crimes. This meant the FBI had been building a case against Zak for a substantial period before executing the raid. Media response was immediate and overwhelming. Local Las Vegas news broke the story first with live coverage. Within hours, national outlets picked it up. TMZ posted aerial footage from helicopters. The paranormal community erupted on social media with shock and disbelief. Ghost Adventures fans were divided between those claiming it was a setup and those saying they always knew something was wrong. FBI raids Zak Bagans trended on Twitter immediately. Official statements were minimal. The FBI confirmed the raid but stated, "This is an ongoing investigation and we cannot comment further at this time." Zak's lawyer released a brief statement saying his client was cooperating fully with authorities. Travel Channel acknowledged they were aware of the situation. No arrests were made that day, but the investigation was clearly far from over. 6 months before the raid, a former haunted museum employee made contact with the FBI with disturbing allegations about Zak Bagans' collection practices. This wasn't a disgruntled worker making vague accusations. The whistleblower provided detailed documentation including photographs of specific artifacts, records of suspicious financial transactions, shipping manifests, and names of international contacts who supplied Zak with items. The FBI's Art Crime Team, the same unit that handles stolen antiquities and cultural heritage crimes, took the allegations seriously and opened an investigation immediately. The whistleblower alleged that Zak had been acquiring artifacts through illegal means for years. Some items were stolen directly from crime scenes and police evidence rooms. Objects were taken from protected indigenous burial sites in violation of federal law. There were possible human remains being kept without proper permits or documentation. Provenance documents for expensive pieces appeared to be forged. The whistleblower also alleged money laundering through artifact sales and participation in an international trafficking network that moved stolen cultural property across borders. The FBI began extensive surveillance of Zak's properties, including the mansion and haunted museum. They tracked shipments and deliveries, monitored financial transactions through multiple bank accounts, and contacted international law enforcement agencies in countries where Zak's suppliers operated. For 6 months, federal agents built their case methodically, gathering evidence and establishing patterns of illegal activity. The investigation revealed connections to several ongoing cases. Multiple missing persons cases had items that matched descriptions of objects in Zak's possession. Stolen property reports from estate thefts aligned with pieces he'd acquired. Archaeological sites that had been illegally looted showed items matching his collection. Indigenous tribes had reported sacred objects missing that appeared in his inventory. While Zak wasn't initially suspected of direct involvement in these crimes, the people supplying him were primary suspects, and he was knowingly purchasing stolen goods. The international scope was staggering. Artifacts were being imported from Egypt, Iraq, Cambodia, Mexico, and Peru. Many came from war zones and conflict areas where cultural heritage was being systematically looted. Items were protected under international law and UNESCO conventions. Customs documents had been falsified to get items into the United States. Shell companies were used for shipping to obscure the real buyers and sellers. The breaking point came when FBI agents intercepted a suspicious shipment at customs. When they opened the crate, the contents matched exactly what the whistleblower had described. The items were clearly stolen and illegal to import. The shipment traced directly back to Zak's purchasing network. That's when the search warrant was approved, and the raid was carefully planned to execute. When FBI agents entered Zak Bagans' mansion, they discovered a hidden room behind a bookshelf. This climate-controlled space was locked, and only Zak had the key. Federal agents had to breach the door. Inside was Zak's private collection, items he never displayed publicly at the haunted museum. This is where the most disturbing discoveries were made. Multiple human skulls and bones were found without any permits or documentation. Federal law requires specific permits for possessing human remains. Some appeared ancient and possibly archaeological. Others were more recent, which was deeply concerning. Several matched descriptions from missing persons cases. The lack of documentation meant potential grave robbery charges and illegal possession. Indigenous sacred objects filled one section. Native American ceremonial items protected under NAGPRA, the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act. These objects were illegal to possess without explicit tribal permission. Items had clearly been stolen from burial sites. Sacred objects never meant for display or sale were treated like trophies. The FBI immediately contacted tribal authorities. International antiquities without proper documentation included Egyptian artifacts lacking export papers, Iraqi pieces likely looted during the war, Cambodian temple fragments, and Mexican pre-Columbian artifacts. All were protected by international treaties. Importation without documentation is federal crime. Customs forms had been deliberately falsified. The murder memorabilia collection was extremely disturbing. Personal effects allegedly from famous serial killer victims, letters from convicted killers, items that appeared stolen from police evidence rooms. Some matched property reported missing from law enforcement facilities. Agents also seized boxes of documents, including forged provenance certificates, financial records showing suspicious payments to international dealers, communications discussing avoiding detection, shell company paperwork, encrypted hard drives, and offshore account information suggesting money laundering. FBI agents who participated in the raid privately stated this was among the worst private collections they'd ever encountered. Some items shouldn't exist outside of evidence rooms. Multiple federal laws had clearly been violated. The international implications were significant. This wasn't just about artifacts. This was about possible connections to serious crimes, including murder. Among everything seized, several items stood out as particularly horrifying. The first was a human skull that appeared recent rather than ancient. FBI ordered immediate DNA testing. Within days, the results came back with a match in the missing persons database. The skull belonged to a woman who disappeared in the 1990s. Her case had gone cold decades ago. Her family never knew what happened to her. Now a homicide investigation was reopened. Zak claimed he purchased it in 2015 for $50,000 from a collector who said it was an authenticated ancient indigenous skull. It wasn't. It was a murder victim. Several personal effects matched descriptions from other missing persons cases. Jewelry, clothing items, and personal belongings that should have been with victims were instead in Zak's collection. Law enforcement was now contacting families of missing persons, potentially providing closure in cold cases while raising horrifying questions about whether victims were killed specifically for their possessions. A sacred Native American medicine bundle was identified as an item stolen from a Plains tribe reservation decades ago. The tribe had been searching for this extremely sacred object for years. These bundles are never meant for sale or display. When FBI contacted tribal authorities about recovering it, There was an emotional response. This single item alone carries serious federal charges under NAGPRA. Iraqi artifacts matched UNESCO's red list of stolen cultural property. Items reported missing from museums during the Iraq war chaos were sitting in Zak's private room. The Iraqi government is now demanding their return. Zak paid hundreds of thousands for pieces that belong to humanity's shared cultural heritage. Objects allegedly from the Manson family murders were found, including personal effects of victims that should never have left police evidence. The families of Tate LaBianca murder victims never knew these items were missing. Questions emerged about how Zak obtained evidence from one of America's most famous murder cases. Encrypted computer files seized by FBI are being analyzed by their cybercrime unit. The files contain communications with international dealers, financial transactions conducted through cryptocurrency, and names of other collectors in the network. This evidence could lead to dozens of additional arrests across multiple countries. The investigation is expanding far beyond Zak Bagans alone. The day after raiding Zak's mansion, FBI agents arrived at the haunted museum with a second search warrant. The popular Las Vegas tourist attraction was immediately closed to the public. Staff members were questioned extensively, while federal agents documented every artifact on display. The museum's inventory was compared against import records, purchase documentation, and reports of stolen property. What agents found was deeply troubling. Many displayed items lacked proper documentation proving legal acquisition. Several pieces matched stolen property reports from various jurisdictions. International artifacts had no import paperwork as required by law. Human remains were being displayed without the permits required by federal and state regulations. Multiple items were seized immediately as evidence. The museum cannot reopen until the investigation concludes and all illegal items are removed. The disturbing realization was that tourists had been paying $35 to view stolen property and evidence from unsolved crimes. Items marketed as the world's most haunted objects were actually stolen from graves, looted from archaeological sites, and taken from crime scenes. The entire business model was built on trafficking in illegal antiquities. Visitors unknowingly supported an international smuggling operation. Class action lawsuits from ticket buyers are now being filed claiming fraud and misrepresentation. Most museum staff had no knowledge of illegal activities. Employees believed everything was legitimate and properly acquired. Zak handled all acquisitions personally with only a small inner circle aware of the truth. Several staff members are now cooperating with investigators and have been offered immunity deals in exchange for testimony. The financial investigation expanded to examine museum revenue and where money actually went. Offshore accounts were discovered. The IRS joined the investigation examining possible tax evasion and money laundering. Museum income may have been used to fund additional illegal purchases and to pay smugglers and dealers. The closure devastated Las Vegas tourism in that area. Thousands of pre-purchased tickets needed refunds. The city tourism board expressed concern. Other attractions distanced themselves from anything connected to Zak Bagans. His name became toxic overnight. Even if legal items remain, the museum's reputation is destroyed. The collection is permanently tainted. Whether it ever reopens is questionable. Who wants to visit a museum built on stolen human remains and murder victim property? FBI investigation revealed Zak wasn't working alone, but was part of a sophisticated international trafficking network spanning multiple countries. Dealers in Egypt, Iraq, Cambodia, Mexico, and Peru supplied him with illegal artifacts for years. This wasn't amateur smuggling. It was a coordinated operation involving experienced criminals who knew how to move stolen cultural property across borders while avoiding detection. One key figure the FBI identified was an Egyptian dealer known as the Collector, who systematically looted archaeological sites and sold directly to wealthy American buyers. Zak was a regular customer. Interpol has been monitoring this dealer for years, and an arrest is imminent. Similarly, an Iraqi dealer operating since 2003 exploited war chaos to smuggle priceless artifacts from looted museums and temples. Zak purchased extensively from this source, fully aware the items were stolen war loot. Criminal networks on Native American reservations illegally excavated burial sites and sold sacred objects to collectors. Zak paid premium prices, which directly incentivized more grave robbery. Tribes have been devastated by these ongoing thefts of their ancestors' remains and sacred items. The network operated through sophisticated methods. Items were smuggled in containers with false bottoms. Shipments went to shell companies with addresses that existed only on paper. Paperwork was forged at multiple stages. Customs officials may have been bribed to look the other way. Items were deliberately mislabeled as reproductions on customs forms, then sold to Zak at prices reflecting their true value. Money moved through cryptocurrency to obscure the financial trail. FBI discovered an extensive paper trail documenting years of transactions totaling millions of dollars. Communications between Zak and dealers showed he was fully aware items were illegal. Messages discussed strategies for avoiding detection by authorities. He cannot claim ignorance. The evidence proves criminal intent and knowing participation. Zak wasn't the network's only American buyer. Dozens of other collectors, including possibly other celebrities, purchased from the same dealers. More raids on other collectors are expected. This investigation is expanding internationally. The FBI Art Crime Team is coordinating with law enforcement across multiple continents. Full prosecution of everyone involved could take years, but the network is finally being dismantled. The most disturbing aspect of the FBI investigation involves connections to missing persons cases. One skull seized from Zak's mansion was immediately DNA tested. Results showed a match in the missing persons database. The skull belonged to a woman who disappeared in the 1990s. Her case went cold decades ago with no leads. Her family spent years not knowing what happened. Now, homicide detectives have reopened the case as a murder investigation. Zak purchased the skull in 2015 for $50,000 from a collector who claimed it was an authenticated ancient indigenous artifact. It wasn't ancient. It was a modern murder victim. The seller is now the prime suspect in her murder. FBI is working to identify and locate this dealer who may have killed specifically to obtain items for the collector market. Several other personal effects seized from the mansion match descriptions from missing persons cases. Jewelry, clothing, and personal items that belong to victims are being identified. FBI is contacting families of missing persons, potentially providing closure in cold cases. But this raises horrifying questions. Were some victims murdered specifically for their possessions to be sold as haunted objects? The dark reality of the haunted object market is that demand creates incentive for crimes. Items with tragic histories are worth more money. Murder victims' belongings have value to collectors. Some dealers are willing to kill to obtain inventory. Collectors like Zak, who pay premium prices and ask no questions about origins, fuel this murderous market. The FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit is now profiling dealers in the network. Some may be serial killers using the collector market as cover for their crimes. Selling victims' possessions as haunted memorabilia provides the perfect explanation for having items that should raise suspicion. Zak may have unknowingly purchased from active murderers, or perhaps he knew and simply didn't care as long as the items had dark histories. Families of victims are speaking out publicly. The daughter of the woman whose skull was found said tearfully, "He had my mother's skull in his house, displayed like a trophy. He never asked where it came from." Other families are coming forward after recognizing items from photographs released by FBI. Civil lawsuits for emotional distress and wrongful death are being filed. Even if Zak didn't directly kill anyone, he created the market that incentivized these murders. His money funded criminals and grave robbers. People died or had graves desecrated so Zak could have his collection. Travel Channel's response was swift and decisive. An official statement declared they were taking these allegations with utmost seriousness. Ghost Adventures production was immediately halted. All scheduled episodes were pulled from the air. The network began reviewing all previous content for potential legal liability. Lawyers examined whether contract termination was possible and necessary. The network's reputation was at stake. Cast members quickly distanced themselves from Zak. Aaron Goodwin released a statement saying he was shocked and disturbed and had no knowledge of any illegal activities. Billy Tolley emphasized he was fully cooperating with the investigation. Jay Wasley remained silent, but his lawyer issued a statement. All cast members stressed they simply worked on the television show and knew nothing about Zak's private collection or acquisition methods. They were trying to protect their own careers from the fallout. Nick Groff, who left the show years ago under controversial circumstances, wasn't surprised at all. This is who he always was. Ego and obsession led here. I'm glad I got out when I did. His earlier allegations about Zak's character now seemed vindicated. Dakota Layden called it horrifying but explains a lot, while his sister Chelsea stated, "This is beyond paranormal drama. This is criminal and evil. Fan reactions were intensely divided. Die-hard defenders claimed it was a frame job and FBI corruption, but most fans felt horrified and betrayed. Can't watch Ghost Adventures anymore. Everything feels tainted now. The social media fallout was massive and immediate. Advertisers began pulling out rapidly, demanding refunds and contract cancellations. No company wanted their brand associated with criminal activity and stolen human remains. The financial impact was devastating. Ghost Adventures had been profitable for years but became toxic overnight. Streaming platforms faced pressure about whether old episodes should remain available. Some argued removing them erases evidence of what happened. Others said keeping them available is ethically wrong. Travel Channel faced criticism regardless of what decision they made. The archive controversy had no good solution. The consensus among industry insiders, Ghost Adventures is finished. Even if Zak is somehow cleared, which seems impossible given the evidence, the show's reputation is destroyed beyond repair. 20 years of paranormal television ended with an FBI raid. Zak Bagans faces devastating federal charges that could result in decades in prison. Possession of stolen property across state lines carries 5 to 10 years per count. Trafficking in illegal antiquities adds 10 to 20 years. NAGPRA violations for illegally possessing Native American remains and sacred objects carry separate federal charges with mandatory minimum sentences. Customs fraud and false declarations on import documents are additional felonies. Money laundering charges are likely given the offshore accounts and cryptocurrency transactions. Conspiracy to traffic artifacts involves everyone in the network. With multiple counts of each charge, Zak realistically faces 40 to 60 years in federal prison. State charges from Nevada are also possible, including theft, possession of stolen property, fraud, forgery, and illegal possession of human remains. Because state and federal charges involve different jurisdictions, there's no double jeopardy protection. He can be tried and convicted in both systems. International arrest warrants are being prepared. Egypt is requesting extradition. Iraq wants him tried there for stealing cultural heritage. An Interpol red notice is possible, preventing him from leaving the United States. His passport has been seized. After serving any U.S. sentence, he could face international trials. Civil lawsuits are mounting rapidly. Families of missing persons whose remains he possessed are filing wrongful death and emotional distress claims. Native American tribes are suing for violation of sacred trust and NAGPRA violations. Museum ticket buyers filed a class action for fraud and misrepresentation. These civil cases could bankrupt him even if criminal charges somehow don't result in prison time. Financial penalties will be staggering. Millions in fines are expected. The government is pursuing asset forfeiture of his mansion, the haunted museum property, and all artifacts. Bank accounts are frozen. Offshore money is being traced and seized. Even without prison, Zak will be financially destroyed. His legal team's defense strategy claims he didn't know items were illegal and trusted dealers and documentation, positioning him as a victim of fraud. But evidence contradicts this completely. Communications show he knew items were stolen and discussed avoiding detection. Claiming ignorance is nearly impossible. The FBI wants the entire trafficking network. They may offer Zak a cooperation deal with reduced charges if he testifies against dealers and names everyone involved. It's possibly his only way to avoid dying in prison. But cooperation requires admitting everything, and his ego may prevent that. Zak remains in Las Vegas under FBI surveillance, staying at an undisclosed location. His mansion is a crime scene. The haunted museum is closed permanently. Ghost Adventures is canceled. He has no income and faces millions in legal fees. Assets are frozen or seized. Friends and industry contacts have abandoned him. He's isolated, depressed, and facing decades in prison. The irony is devastating. He spent 20 years claiming objects were cursed by dark entities. The real curse was his own criminal behavior. The darkness wasn't supernatural. It was his moral failure. Families of victims whose remains he collected finally have justice coming. The ghost hunter will become a ghost himself, locked away where he belongs. Zak Bagans had everything. 20 years building Ghost Adventures into a phenomenon. A $30 million empire. The haunted museum bringing in millions. He was the king of paranormal television. Untouchable, powerful, famous. Then in 24 hours, it all collapsed. Not gradually, instantly. A former employee posted evidence online. Videos, audio, documents, text messages, all of it undeniable. Within hours, sponsors pulled out. Travel Channel canceled the show. The museum closed. Cast members abandoned him. The entire industry turned. His career didn't fade. It exploded. Subscribe now, because what happened to Zak Bagans is the fastest, most public, most devastating fall from grace in paranormal TV history. From millionaire to bankrupt, from star to pariah, from untouchable to unemployable, all in one day. This is how Zak Bagans' career ended in the absolute worst way possible, and why he can never come back. Before the collapse, Zak Bagans stood at the absolute pinnacle of paranormal television. Ghost Adventures had aired over 25 seasons, with more than 300 episodes filmed across 2 decades. The show was Travel Channel's #1 rated program for years, drawing millions of viewers weekly. International syndication meant Ghost Adventures played in countries around the world. The show received Emmy nominations and became a genuine cultural phenomenon. Zak wasn't just famous in paranormal circles. He was a mainstream celebrity whose catchphrase, "Yoop," was recognized even by people who never watched the show. The Haunted Museum opened in Las Vegas in 2017 and immediately became a major tourist attraction. Over 30 rooms filled with allegedly cursed and haunted objects. Admission cost $35 or more, and thousands of visitors came through weekly. The museum generated millions in annual revenue. Zak created a documentary series about the museum that brought even more attention. Media outlets constantly covered new acquisitions and celebrity visits. The museum was as famous as Zak himself. His estimated net worth reached $30 million. Beyond the show and museum, Zak had book deals, merchandise licensing, speaking engagements commanding tens of thousands per appearance, and millions of social media followers. He lived in a luxury mansion in an exclusive Las Vegas gated community. He drove expensive cars, dated models and celebrities, and enjoyed complete VIP treatment everywhere he went. He was living his absolute dream life publicly. But the real measure of Zak's success was the power he wielded. As executive producer of Ghost Adventures, he controlled what got filmed and how. He had influence over Travel Channel's entire paranormal programming strategy. When he gave the network ultimatums about competitor shows, the network chose him every time. Other paranormal investigators feared him because he could blacklist them from the industry with a single phone call. He'd proven this repeatedly by destroying the careers of Nick Groff, Dakota Layden, and others who threatened his dominance. Networks were dependent on Ghost Adventures' success. Sponsors paid premium rates. Zak seemed completely untouchable. After 20 years of building his empire, nothing suggested it could ever fall. He'd survived controversies before. He'd weathered criticism. He seemed invincible. But in just 24 hours, every single bit of this success would vanish. And the way it ended would be worse than anyone could possibly imagine. On a Tuesday morning in March 2024, everything changed for Zak Bagans. The day started normally, but by nightfall, his career was completely destroyed. A former Haunted Museum employee who had worked closely with Zak for 3 years created a Twitter account and posted a thread that would go viral within minutes. The post wasn't vague accusations or hearsay. It included photo evidence, video clips, audio recordings, and screenshots of text messages. Everything was time-stamped and verified. There was no way to deny it or claim it was fake. The allegations were devastating. The employee documented serious misconduct on Ghost Adventures sets, including Zak verbally abusing crew members, destroying equipment in fits of rage, and creating a hostile work environment that people were afraid to report. Financial impropriety with the Haunted Museum was detailed with documents showing revenue being diverted to personal accounts and investors being misled about profits. Most damning were recordings of Zak discussing how to fake evidence during investigations, laughing about fooling the audience, and coordinating staged paranormal moments with crew members. Text messages showed him mocking fans who believed the show was real and discussing strategies to manipulate vulnerable people at locations for better television. The evidence also included Zak's communications about blacklisting competitors, messages where he discussed giving networks ultimatums and bragging about destroying other shows. Legal violations were documented, including threats made to location owners who wanted to allow other paranormal shows to film. Everything that Nick Groff, Dakota Layden, and others had alleged was now proven with Zak's own words and actions. Within 30 minutes of the initial post, the thread had been retweeted 50,000 times. Within an hour, it was trending #1 on Twitter. TikTok videos explaining the allegations spread rapidly. YouTube paranormal channels began covering it immediately with emergency videos. The paranormal community erupted in shock. Ghost Adventures fans were divided between those desperately trying to defend Zak and those saying they always suspected something was wrong. What made this different from previous controversies was the irrefutable nature of the evidence. This wasn't speculation or rumor. These were videos of Zak's behavior, audio of his voice, and screenshots of his own text messages. Multiple independent sources corroborated everything. The evidence had clear legal implications with potential criminal charges. Victims came forward with names and faces willing to testify. Major media outlets couldn't ignore it because the documentation was too strong. Travel Channel executives were alerted immediately and called an emergency meeting. Sponsors began calling within hours demanding answers. By evening, the network faced an impossible choice: stand by Zak and lose sponsors and credibility, or cut ties immediately and deal with the fallout. The decision would be made faster than anyone expected. Hour 1. The story breaks on Twitter and begins spreading. Zak hasn't responded. Fans hope it's somehow fake. Evidence keeps spreading across platforms. Media outlets start picking it up. Hours 2 through 3. More victims come forward with their own stories. Additional videos surface from other crew members. Witnesses corroborate everything. The pattern becomes undeniable. Zak remains silent. His lawyer hasn't issued any statement. The situation deteriorates rapidly. Hours 4 through 6. Every entertainment outlet covers the story. TMZ, E! News, and major networks report it. Paranormal YouTubers make emergency videos. Old Ghost Adventures clips are re-examined with new context. Past controversies resurface. The momentum becomes impossible to stop. Hours 8 through 10. Cast members begin responding publicly. Aaron Goodwin posts he's shocked and disturbed. Billy Tolley and Jay Wasley distance themselves immediately. Nick Groff responds, not surprised at all. Dakota Layden says it explains everything. Nobody defends Zak. Complete abandonment. Hour 12. Major advertisers demand their commercials be pulled from Ghost Adventures. Sponsors terminate contracts immediately. The financial impact is devastating. Travel Channel faces enormous pressure. Hour 16. Travel Channel releases official statement. Production is immediately halted. All scheduled episodes are pulled. The network announces they're investigating and considering contract termination. Zak is effectively fired. Hour 20. The Haunted Museum closes indefinitely. Staff told not to come in. Doors locked. Ticket sales suspended. Refunds processed. Protesters gather outside. The business shuts down completely. Hour 24. Zak finally releases a statement through his lawyer. He denies allegations and claims misunderstanding. Nobody believes it. The evidence is too strong. His statement makes everything worse. Within 24 hours, Zak Bagans went from the king of paranormal television to completely unemployed with his career destroyed. The fastest collapse in industry history. The evidence released was devastating and irrefutable. Video footage from hidden cameras showed Zak verbally abusing crew members on multiple Ghost Adventures sets, screaming, threatening, destroying equipment in rage, and creating a hostile environment where people were terrified to speak up. Multiple incidents documented over years. Audio recordings captured phone conversations where Zak discussed with producers how to fake paranormal evidence. He admitted investigations were staged, laughed about fooling the audience, and talked about manipulating vulnerable people at locations for better television drama. His own voice, impossible to deny. Financial documents provided by the museum's accountant showed revenue being misreported. Money from ticket sales diverted to Zak's personal accounts. Investors misled about actual profits. Tax issues apparent. Artifact purchases with questionable origins. Shell companies involved in transactions. Clear evidence of fraud. Text messages revealed Zak discussing coordinating fake evidence with crew members, mocking fans who believed the show was real, planning how to manipulate investigators and location owners, and bragging about blacklisting competitors. Messages showed him threatening people who challenged him and celebrating when he got other shows canceled. His character was completely exposed. Crew members appeared on camera providing detailed testimonies. Years of abuse and hostile work environment described consistently. Fear and intimidation tactics Zak used. ND, as they were now breaking because the behavior was too serious to stay silent. Legal protection being sought. Location owners came forward with their own evidence, contracts showing exclusivity demands, threats of lawsuits if they allowed other shows to film, proof they were lied to about the show's nature, documentation of property damage never compensated, legal threats if they spoke publicly. The scope was systematic, not isolated incidents. Years of deliberate deception involving many people, covered up through threats and NDAs. Network executives possibly knew. The entire show's credibility destroyed. Nothing could be trusted. Everything Zak built was exposed as fraud and abuse. The evidence left no room for doubt or defense. Within hours of the evidence surfacing, every single person associated with Zak Bagans publicly distanced themselves. Aaron Goodwin posted he had no idea this was happening and thought investigations were legitimate. Billy Tolley announced he was cooperating with any investigation. Jay Wasley's statement emphasized he was just an employee not responsible for Zak's actions. All three were protecting their own careers. No loyalty remained. Nick Groff's response was immediate. "This is exactly why I left. I saw this behavior firsthand and tried to warn people." Everything he'd said about Zak for years was now vindicated. Fans who had doubted Nick apologized. His career was thriving while Zak's burned. Dakota and Chelsea Layden stated it finally explains everything about why Destination Fear was canceled. "His jealousy and need for control destroyed our show. We're glad we're independent now." They felt vindicated. Zero sympathy for Zak. Other paranormal investigators rushed to distance themselves. Public statements emphasizing never worked with him and completely different approach to investigation. The industry collectively rejected him. Not a single defender emerged. Location owners who had stayed silent for years flooded forward with their stories. Mistreatment documented, legal threats exposed, contracts revealed publicly. A class action lawsuit was being organized. Safety in numbers empowered them. The entire Haunted Museum staff resigned simultaneously. Nobody wanted to be associated. Their own reputations were at stake. Stories about working conditions emerged. Didn't know the full extent they claimed while fleeing. Travel Channel issued an apology stating they should have acted sooner and were reviewing all past content. Other networks made clear they would never work with Zak. He was blacklisted by the entire industry, this time permanently. The man who once wielded power to destroy others' careers was now completely abandoned. Not a single person in paranormal television stood by him. Complete isolation. The empire he built on fear and control collapsed when everyone finally felt safe enough to speak truth. The financial collapse was as fast as the career destruction. Ghost Adventures cancellation eliminated Zak's primary income of $3 to $5 million annually. No residuals would come. Syndication was pulled. International deals were canceled. No other network would offer opportunities. Career income dropped to zero instantly. The Haunted Museum closure stopped revenue generating over $10 million per year, but operating costs continued. Lease or mortgage payments still due. Staff owed final paychecks. Utilities and maintenance costs ongoing. The business was hemorrhaging money daily with no income. It would likely never reopen. Every sponsor and advertiser terminated their contracts immediately. Endorsement deals pulled. Merchandise agreements ended. Licensing fees stopped. Approximately $2 million in annual income vanished. Money already paid was being returned per contract clauses. Lawsuit costs began mounting. Crew members filed hostile workplace suits. Location owners sued for fraud and breach of contract. Museum investors filed claims for financial misrepresentation. Ticket buyers organized class action for consumer fraud. Defense attorneys were expensive. Legal fees could reach millions. Assets were at risk of seizure. The museum property became worthless, tainted by association, unsellable. The artifact collection's value destroyed. Personal brand completely dead. Nothing remained marketable. Everything tied to his name was now toxic. Zak's mansion would likely need selling. The luxury lifestyle was unsustainable. Cars, collections, toys all had to go. Downsizing from millionaire to financial struggle happened in days. The total damage, net worth dropped from $30 million to possibly negative. Debts exceeded assets. No income sources remained. Legal fees mounting daily. Creditors circling. Financial ruin was complete and bankruptcy the likely outcome. Within 1 week, Zak went from wealthy celebrity to facing complete financial destruction. The money, like the career, disappeared instantly. Everything he spent 20 years building financially was gone. The fall wasn't just professional, it was economic devastation on every level, from penthouse to potentially homeless. The speed of financial collapse matched the career destruction perfectly. Criminal investigations opened immediately after the evidence surfaced. Fraud allegations were serious enough for prosecutors to review. Financial crimes involving the museum were being examined by authorities. Tax agencies became interested in the discrepancies. Interstate commerce violations were possible given the multi-state nature of Ghost Adventures. Conspiracy charges were potential. Evidence showed multiple felonies. Prosecutors were building cases. Criminal charges appeared likely. Civil lawsuits flooded in from every direction. Crew members filed hostile workplace suits claiming emotional distress and lost wages. Location owners sued for fraud, breach of contract, and property damage. Museum investors filed financial fraud claims alleging misrepresentation. Ticket buyers organized a class action for consumer fraud. claiming they paid for fake experiences. Each lawsuit sought millions in damages. The class action from museum visitors was particularly devastating. Millions of people had paid $35 or more, believing they were seeing real haunted objects and legitimate paranormal experiences. False advertising claims were strong. If successful, the payout could bankrupt Zak completely. Travel Channel was also being sued by victims who claimed the network should have known and allowed the hostile environment while profiting from fraud. The network began settling quietly and distancing from Zak, throwing him under the bus to protect themselves. Insurance policies likely wouldn't cover intentional acts. Exclusions for deliberate misconduct meant personal liability was full. Zak couldn't hide behind corporate protection. Everything he owned was at risk. Courts issued orders freezing bank accounts to prevent asset hiding. The museum property had liens attached. His personal collections were subject to seizure to pay victims and settlements. Zak hired expensive lawyers, but money was running out fast. His defense strategy was unclear because the evidence was overwhelming. He couldn't claim ignorance when his own words and actions were documented. No good defense existed. Legal experts predicted he would lose everything in court. Between criminal charges potentially sending him to prison and civil judgments bankrupting him, Zak faced the worst legal nightmare imaginable. The consequences were only beginning. What made Zak Bagans' career ending uniquely devastating was the combination of factors that created the perfect storm of destruction. Most careers fade slowly over years. His ended in 24 hours. No time to prepare, adjust, or pivot. Instant unemployment. The psychological whiplash from peak success to absolute bottom was traumatic beyond measure. The public nature made it infinitely worse. Everything was documented online and witnessed by millions in real time. He couldn't hide or disappear quietly. The evidence spread everywhere permanently. His Google search results were ruined forever. His legacy destroyed publicly, with no dignity. Complete humiliation watched by the world. The total abandonment was crushing. Not a single person defended him. Cast members fled. Staff quit. Friends distanced. The industry rejected him. Fans turned against him. He went from surrounded by people to completely alone instantly. Nobody remained. The irrefutable evidence eliminated any possibility of defense. These weren't rumors he could deny. His own voice and actions were documented. Multiple independent sources verified everything. Years of proof existed. No spin or rebranding was possible. Facts destroyed him completely. The permanent damage meant no comeback was possible. This wasn't a scandal he could recover from. Too serious to forgive. Evidence existed forever. The internet never forgets. His career was over permanently. No redemption arc. No second chances. 20 years of work gone. His legacy transformation was complete. Ghost adventures became unwatchable. The haunted museum permanently closed. His name meant scandal. He became a cautionary tale, remembered only for the wrong reasons. Everything he built was tainted. The comparison to other disgraced public figures was apt. Harvey Weinstein level fall. Bill Cosby public destruction. Lance Armstrong disgrace. Zak joined that category. Cultural pariah status permanent. The combination of losing everything materially while facing criminal charges and massive civil liability created the worst possible scenario. Bankruptcy and prison simultaneously. Financial ruin and legal destruction. Every aspect of his life collapsed at once. There is no worse way a career can end than what happened to Zak Bagans. Fast, public, permanent, and total. Zak Bagans left Las Vegas immediately after the scandal broke. His current location is undisclosed. He's hiding from media and protesters. He can't return home with paparazzi stalking his properties. No peace exists anywhere for him now. Financially, he's liquidating everything. Selling assets desperately. Lawyers taking massive cuts. Settlements being negotiated. Debt is overwhelming. Bankruptcy paperwork is being prepared. He went from $30 million to broke in weeks. The fall is complete. Reports describe severe mental health decline, deep depression and anxiety, paranoid behavior, not eating or sleeping properly. Recent photos show he's aged dramatically. The physical toll is visible. He's reportedly in therapy and on medication. A complete breakdown has either happened or is imminent. His social media accounts are dark. Last posts were before the scandal. Millions of followers, but he can't post anything. Comments would be vicious. His online presence is now a liability. He may never return to social media. He's completely isolated, single and alone. Friends abandoned him. Family is embarrassed. Dating is impossible with his reputation. He can't appear in public anywhere. Self-imposed exile is his only option. Legal proceedings dominate his future. Multiple depositions scheduled. Court dates coming. Criminal charges are possible. Civil trials will consume years. The outcome looks terrible. Prison time is possible. Financial ruin is certain. Any comeback is impossible according to industry insiders. Too serious to forgive. Evidence too damning. No network will touch him. Even YouTube is unlikely. Maybe a small podcast eventually, but never mainstream again. His career is dead permanently. Insiders say he's finished completely and call it the worst fall we've ever seen. There's no path back from this. It's self-inflicted destruction that could have been avoided. His ego and arrogance did this. Meanwhile, his victims thrive. Nick Groff succeeds independently. Dakota and Chelsea dominate YouTube. They survived and flourished. Zak destroyed himself. Karma fully realized. Justice served. His legacy is now a cautionary tale about abuse of power and inevitable consequences. This is how Zak Bagans will be remembered, not as a pioneer, but as a warning. Rumors exploded online as Ghost Adventures may be canceled. After 25 seasons, after 300 episodes, after 15 years dominating paranormal television, sources claim Travel Channel is pulling the plug. Not a hiatus, not a pause, permanent cancellation. Alleged internal statement says what Zak Bagans did can't be forgiven. Reports surfaced 3 weeks ago. Claims of serious misconduct, allegations from multiple crew members. Then more stories allegedly emerged. Dozens of accounts, patterns spanning years. The network reportedly acting fast, sponsors threatening to pull out according to insiders. Subscribe because if true, these allegations are devastating. There's talk of possible investigations, potential legal consequences. His empire could be crumbling, financial impact catastrophic, and if these claims hold up, his career is over. This is everything we know so far. Stay tuned. According to sources online, Travel Channel may have released an internal statement about Ghost Adventures. Multiple industry insiders are reporting that the network is considering cancellation or has already decided to cancel the show. The alleged statement reportedly addresses serious allegations regarding Zak Bagans' conduct. If true, this would mark the end of one of paranormal television's longest-running and most successful programs. The rumored statement allegedly uses careful legal language but makes the network's position clear. Sources claim it mentions recent allegations that have come to light and states the network can no longer continue the relationship in good conscience. The alleged wording suggests something serious enough that continuing production would create liability or reputation damage for Travel Channel. Industry insiders say this type of mid-season cancellation language is extremely rare and typically reserved for criminal allegations or behavior that creates legal exposure. The timing is reportedly significant. Ghost Adventures was allegedly in the middle of production with several episodes already filmed for the current season. Sources claim these episodes will not air. Mid-season cancellations of this nature almost never happen unless the situation is severe. Networks typically finish contracted seasons even when controversies arise. The fact that Travel Channel allegedly stopped everything immediately suggests urgency and seriousness. Social media exploded with the rumors within minutes. The hashtag Ghost Adventures canceled began trending on Twitter, though no official confirmation exists. Paranormal community forums are filled with speculation. Some fans are demanding answers. Others claim it's fake news or misunderstanding. The lack of official confirmation from Travel Channel or Zak Bagans himself is fueling more speculation. What makes these rumors credible to many is that multiple independent sources are reporting similar information. Industry trade publications are allegedly investigating. Entertainment reporters are said to be reaching out to Travel Channel for comment. The network has not issued any public statement confirming or denying the cancellation rumors. Their silence is notable given how quickly rumors spread. If the cancellation is real, it would mean the end of a show that defined paranormal television for over 15 years. Ghost Adventures premiered in 2008 and became Travel Channel's highest-rated program. The show has aired over 300 episodes across 25 seasons. It made Zak Bagans a household name and launched an entire genre of paranormal investigation shows. The cultural impact has been enormous, but the bigger question everyone is asking is, what allegedly happened? What could Zak Bagans have done that would force the network to cancel their most successful show? The rumors circulating are serious, but nothing has been confirmed. and that uncertainty is driving massive speculation online. Online rumors allege serious misconduct by Zak Bagans during a recent filming. Unverified sources claim an incident occurred 3 weeks ago at a Northern California location involving inappropriate behavior toward a female production assistant. These are unconfirmed allegations that cannot be verified at this time. Speculation suggests a formal complaint may have been filed with union representatives. Anonymous social media accounts claim there could be video or audio evidence, though this is completely unverified. Several accounts claiming to be former crew members have posted similar stories, but their authenticity cannot be confirmed. The alleged pattern reportedly includes inappropriate comments, unwanted physical contact, abuse of power dynamics, and hostile work environments. Additional women have allegedly come forward with similar unverified stories. Some use hashtag #IWorkedWithZak, though most accounts are anonymous and impossible to authenticate. Rumors claim Travel Channel executives may have been aware of previous complaints and allegedly paid settlements to keep incidents quiet. These claims are completely unverified and could be entirely false. No official documentation supports any of these allegations. Industry sources reportedly say if allegations were true, networks would have no choice but to cancel due to legal liability and sponsor pressure. However, nothing has been officially confirmed by any party. Neither Zak Bagans nor Travel Channel has issued public statements addressing these rumors. Zak's social media has gone silent since before the alleged incident. His last post predates the rumors. The lack of denial or clarification fuels speculation, though silence could simply mean legal counsel advised against commenting. Former cast members like Nick Groff and Dakota Layden have not commented publicly. The paranormal community is divided between those refusing to believe without proof and others claiming they always suspected something. Until official statements or verified evidence emerge, everything remains unconfirmed rumor and speculation. No law enforcement has confirmed any investigation. No charges have been filed that we can verify. According to social media posts, some Ghost Adventures cast members may have responded to the rumors. Aaron Goodwin allegedly posted to Instagram expressing shock at the allegations and claiming no knowledge of any misconduct. The post reportedly emphasized he focused on investigations and wasn't involved in production decisions. However, we cannot independently verify this post's authenticity or if it has since been deleted. Billy Tolley allegedly posted a Twitter thread distancing himself from the allegations, reportedly stating he was an equipment technician and had no involvement in behind-the-scenes production matters. Again, this cannot be confirmed as authentic. Jay Wasley has reportedly remained silent according to online speculation. Some sources claim his lawyer may have advised him not to comment, though this is purely speculation. Nick Groff, who left Ghost Adventures years ago, allegedly posted that this explains why he left, and that he tried to warn people. These alleged statements are circulating on social media, but cannot be verified as coming from his official accounts. Dakota Layden and Chelsea Layden reportedly commented that the allegations explain everything about why Destination Fear was allegedly canceled. These claims are unverified. Anonymous social media accounts claiming to be production crew members have been posting stories using handles like at Ghost Adventures Crew Truths. These accounts claim everyone knew, and people were afraid to speak. However, there is no way to verify these accounts are actually from crew members. They could be completely fabricated. Multiple location owners are allegedly coming forward claiming Zak made their staff uncomfortable and that complaints to production were ignored. These claims circulate on paranormal forums but lack verification. Travel Channel staff members have allegedly spoken anonymously to entertainment blogs claiming they reported issues to executives who chose to protect the show. No credible news organization has confirmed these anonymous claims. Major sponsors have not made any public statements. Rumors suggest some may be threatening to pull advertising, but no company has confirmed this. All of these alleged reactions are based on unverified social media posts, anonymous accounts, and speculation. Without official confirmation, they should be treated as rumors only. Unverified online rumors suggest a criminal investigation may have been opened, though no law enforcement agency has officially confirmed this. Speculation claims a formal police report may have been filed in Northern California, but we cannot verify this through any official channels. Anonymous sources allegedly claim a detective has been assigned to investigate the allegations. These sources suggest interviews with potential witnesses may be occurring, though none of this can be confirmed. No police department has issued any statement regarding Zak Bagans or Ghost Adventures. Online speculation discusses what charges could theoretically be filed if allegations were proven true. Legal experts quoted in forums mention possibilities like assault, harassment, or workplace violations, but this is purely hypothetical discussion. No charges have been filed that we can verify through any court system. Rumors suggest the district attorney's office may be reviewing evidence, but no official confirmation exists. Claims that multiple women are cooperating with investigators are circulating but completely unverified. No prosecutor has made any public statement. Some speculation mentions potential federal involvement if alleged incidents occurred across state lines, which could trigger federal jurisdiction. This is legal theory being discussed online, not confirmed reality. Civil lawsuits are rumored to be in preparation. Anonymous posts claim women are consulting lawyers about potential harassment and hostile workplace claims. No lawsuits have been filed in any court system that we can verify through public records. Travel Channel's potential legal liability is being discussed extensively online. Legal analysts on YouTube speculate the network could face lawsuits for allegedly knowing about problems and failing to act. These are theoretical discussions, not actual filed cases. Zak Bagans has allegedly retained a criminal defense attorney, according to gossip sites, though we cannot confirm this. His legal team has not issued any public statements that we can verify. The complete absence of any official confirmation from law enforcement, prosecutors, or court systems means everything discussed remains pure speculation. No investigation has been confirmed. No charges exist. No lawsuits have been filed in any verifiable way. If the cancellation rumors are true, the financial impact on Zak Bagans could be catastrophic. Online speculation suggests Ghost Adventures was his primary income source, reportedly earning him millions per season as host and executive producer. These figures are estimates based on industry standards, not confirmed salary information. Rumors claim streaming platforms may be considering removing Ghost Adventures content, though no platform has made any official announcement. Speculation suggests international broadcast deals could be canceled, but no broadcaster has confirmed this. DVD sales allegedly halted according to online forums, but retailers have not issued statements. The Haunted Museum in Las Vegas reportedly continues operating normally despite the rumors. Some social media posts claim ticket sales are dropping, but no official attendance figures have been released. Speculation about the museum closing is circulating, though no announcement has been made. Sponsors and endorsement deals are allegedly under review according to gossip sites. No company has publicly terminated any relationship with Zak or Ghost Adventures. The financial impact remains purely speculative. Legal fees are rumored to be mounting if Zak has retained attorneys, though we cannot confirm he has hired legal representation. Potential settlement costs are being discussed online in hypothetical terms, but no lawsuits have been filed that we can verify. Real estate holdings including Zak's mansion and museum property are allegedly worth millions, though exact valuations are not public. Speculation suggests he may need to liquidate assets, but this is purely rumor without any evidence. Industry analysts on YouTube estimate his net worth at approximately $30 million based on public information, but actual financial status is private. Speculation about bankruptcy is circulating online, though no financial filings exist. The rumored financial collapse from losing Ghost Adventures income, potential legal costs, and damaged reputation could be devastating if true. However, without confirmed cancellation or legal cases, all financial impact remains theoretical speculation. Until official announcements are made by networks, sponsors, or streaming platforms, the financial consequences remain completely unverified rumors. If the allegations circulating online are true, many in the paranormal community are discussing why such behavior would be considered unforgivable. This is speculation about hypothetical consequences, not confirmed facts. Online discussions focus on the alleged nature of systematic misconduct over years. Commenters argue that if someone deliberately abused power and harmed multiple people, redemption becomes impossible. These are opinions being expressed online, not confirmed circumstances. The rumored pattern involving dozens of alleged victims, if proven true, would represent serial predatory behavior according to legal experts commenting on social media. However, no pattern has been established by any official investigation. Speculation suggests that if cover-ups occurred with NDAs and settlements, this would demonstrate premeditation rather than mistakes. These are theoretical scenarios based on rumors, not verified facts. The alleged betrayal of fans is being discussed extensively. If Zak built a brand on investigating evil while allegedly engaging in misconduct himself, commenters say the hypocrisy would be unforgivable. This is opinion based on unproven allegations. Comparisons to other disgraced public figures like Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby are being made in online forums. People speculate that if allegations were proven true, Zak would join that category of permanently canceled figures. These are hypothetical comparisons, not established parallels. The Me Too movement context is cited frequently. Commenters note that powerful men facing consequences for alleged misconduct represents cultural progress. However, no misconduct has been proven in this case. Online consensus in comment sections suggests that certain alleged behaviors cross lines that make forgiveness impossible regardless of apologies. But this is public opinion about hypothetical scenarios, not reactions to confirmed events. Legal experts on YouTube explain that if criminal charges were filed and convictions obtained, career recovery would be impossible. This is theoretical legal analysis, not description of actual charges. All discussions of unforgivable behavior are based on unproven allegations and speculation. Without confirmed facts, these are hypothetical ethical debates, not judgments on actual actions. If Ghost Adventures is truly canceled, speculation suggests all episodes could be pulled from streaming platforms. However, no platform including Hulu, Discovery Plus, or Max has made any official announcement about removing content. Online rumors claim reruns may be canceled from cable television, but Travel Channel has not confirmed any programming changes. The fate of 300-plus episodes spanning 25 seasons remains uncertain. Some online discussions debate whether the show should be completely erased or archived for historical purposes. These are theoretical discussions with no official decisions made by any network. Rumors suggest filmed episodes for the current season will never air. Though production status has not been officially confirmed or denied, speculation claims DVD box sets may be discontinued, but retailers have not announced any changes to availability. Fan collections of memorabilia are allegedly losing value according to collector forums, though this is subjective speculation. Some social media posts show people claiming they're discarding Ghost Adventures merchandise. But these isolated incidents don't represent any broader trend. The cultural impact of potentially losing a show that defined paranormal television for 15 years is being discussed extensively online. Ghost Adventures influenced an entire generation of paranormal investigators and spawned numerous imitators. If cancellation is real, the void in paranormal programming would be significant. Other paranormal shows could allegedly benefit from Ghost Adventures' removal. Dakota and Chelsea Layden's YouTube projects, Nick Groff's independent work, and other investigators might gain the audience. However, this is pure speculation about hypothetical market shifts. Travel Channel would need to rebuild its paranormal programming if their flagship show is truly gone. Rumors suggest new shows are in development, but the network has announced no programming changes. Location owners featured on Ghost Adventures have not made statements about how association with the show might affect their businesses. Speculation exists, but no verified impact. Until official announcements come from networks or platforms, the show's fate and all discussion about its removal remain unconfirmed rumors and speculation. Zak Bagans' current whereabouts are unknown and subject to intense online speculation. Social media rumors claim he has left Las Vegas and is hiding from media attention, though this cannot be verified. No credible sightings have been confirmed by any news organization. His social media accounts have reportedly gone silent according to fans tracking his activity. His last verified post allegedly occurred before the rumors began circulating. Some speculate this silence indicates guilt, while others suggest lawyers may have advised against posting. Both explanations are pure speculation. Anonymous gossip sites claim Zak is experiencing severe mental distress, but these reports have no verifiable source. Speculation about his emotional state is based entirely on assumptions, not confirmed information from anyone close to him. Rumors suggest he has hired legal representation, though no attorney has publicly confirmed representing him. Anonymous sources claim he is preparing legal defenses, but this is unverified gossip. His financial situation is subject to speculation, with rumors claiming he is liquidating assets. However, no property sales or financial transactions have been confirmed through public records. Claims that his mansion is for sale cannot be verified through real estate listings. The Haunted Museum in Las Vegas continues operating according to its website. suggesting business continues despite rumors. No closure announcements have been made officially. Public appearance prospects are being discussed online. Speculation suggests he cannot show his face anywhere due to the controversy, though no actual confrontations or incidents have been documented. Career prospects are deemed impossible by online commenters who claim no network will work with him. However, no networks have issued statements about future projects or canceling relationships. Friends and family connections are rumored to be severed, with anonymous posts claiming total isolation. These claims cannot be verified and may be completely fabricated. Comparisons to other disgraced public figures are common in online discussions, though Zak's situation differs significantly as nothing has been officially confirmed. His actual current status, location, mental state, and circumstances remain completely unknown. Everything discussed is speculation based on his social media silence and unverified rumors. The alleged cancellation of Ghost Adventures and rumors surrounding Zak Bagans represent a potential turning point for paranormal television, though nothing has been officially confirmed. If the allegations prove true, the impact on workplace safety and industry accountability could be significant. However, at this point, everything remains speculation. For alleged victims mentioned in unverified rumors, the importance of being heard and believed is paramount if their stories are genuine. The Me Too movement has changed how allegations are handled, though due process and verified evidence remain essential before drawing conclusions. The paranormal television industry could face increased scrutiny regarding workplace safety and conduct if these rumors lead to confirmed issues. Networks may implement stricter protocols, though no policy changes have been announced by any network. Travel Channel's alleged decision to prioritize ethics over profits, if true, would set an important precedent. However, without official confirmation of cancellation or the reasons behind it, this remains hypothetical. For fans of Ghost Adventures, processing these rumors is difficult. Many loved the show while being troubled by unverified allegations. The separation of art from artist is a personal decision each viewer must make, though currently there's no confirmed wrongdoing to separate from. Legal proceedings, if they materialize, could take years. Criminal investigations require thorough evidence gathering. Civil trials involve lengthy discovery processes. Nothing has been filed or confirmed through any court system at this time. The legacy of Ghost Adventures remains in question. The show influenced paranormal television significantly over 15 years. Whether that legacy becomes tainted depends entirely on whether current rumors are substantiated with verified evidence. Other paranormal investigators may benefit from any potential void in programming, though this is purely speculative market analysis. What actually comes next depends entirely on facts we don't yet have. Will official statements be released? Will investigations be confirmed? Will legal action be filed? Currently, none of these questions have answers. The only certainty is that rumors have spread widely and rapidly. Whether they're based on truth or fabrication remains unknown. Until verified information emerges from credible sources, official statements are made, or legal filings become public record, everything discussed remains unconfirmed speculation requiring skeptical evaluation. Zak Bagans paid $50,000 for a skull. The dealer said it was 500 years old. Indigenous artifact. Ancient and rare. Zak displayed it proudly in his private collection. Then the FBI raided his mansion. They seized the skull. Standard procedure. DNA testing. The results came back. Not 500 years old, 30 years old. The skull matched Jennifer Martinez, missing since 1994, a mother who vanished without a trace. Her daughter grew up without answers. Now they knew. She was murdered, and the DNA test didn't just identify her. It exposed a serial killer. 6 victims buried on his property, all sold as artifacts to collectors. Subscribe because this story gets darker. The skull that solved a 30-year murder. The dealer who trafficked human remains. The killer who's been hiding for decades. And Zak Bagans, who built his museum on real bodies. This is how one DNA test changed everything. Jennifer Martinez was 28 years old in 1994. She lived in Phoenix, Arizona as a single mother raising her 5-year-old daughter, Sarah. Jennifer worked as a waitress at a local diner, taking double shifts whenever possible to make ends meet. Despite financial struggles, she was studying part-time for a nursing degree because she wanted a better life for her daughter. Everyone who knew Jennifer described her as kind, hardworking, and completely devoted to her child. She had dreams and plans for the future. Those dreams ended on October 17th, 1994. Jennifer had recently ended a toxic relationship with her daughter's father. The relationship was complicated. He was controlling and jealous, and friends worried about her safety. She had filed a restraining order but continued seeing him occasionally because she wanted to make things work for Sarah's sake. It was a decision that would haunt those who loved her. On the evening of October 17th, Jennifer told the babysitter she had a meeting, but didn't specify with whom. She said she'd be back by 10 p.m. She never returned. The babysitter waited until midnight before calling Jennifer's mother in panic. Her mother immediately contacted police. 2 days later, Jennifer's car was found abandoned in a desert area outside Phoenix. The keys were still in the ignition. Her purse and ID were inside. There were no signs of struggle in the vehicle, but Jennifer was gone. Police launched an immediate investigation. Her ex-boyfriend was questioned extensively as the prime suspect, but he had an alibi that checked out completely. He was at work during the time Jennifer disappeared, with multiple witnesses confirming. Despite police suspicions, there was no evidence to charge him. Other potential suspects were investigated and cleared. After 6 months, all leads dried up. No body was recovered. No physical evidence existed. The case remained open but went cold. Jennifer's daughter Sarah was raised by her grandmother. She grew up always wondering what happened to her mother. She kept her mother's memory alive, looking at old photographs and asking questions nobody could answer. Sarah is now 35 years old with children of her own. For 3 decades, she never stopped hoping for answers. She maintained regular contact with Phoenix police, checking periodically if there were any developments in her mother's case. Jennifer's disappearance was one of hundreds of cold cases that pile up in every city. Families suffer without closure, never knowing if their loved one is alive or dead. For 30 years, nobody knew what happened to Jennifer Martinez, until a skull in a Las Vegas mansion changed everything. During an FBI raid on Zak Bagans' Las Vegas mansion related to illegal artifact trafficking, federal agents discovered a hidden room behind a bookshelf. This climate-controlled vault was accessible only with a key that Zak personally controlled. FBI agents had to breach the door. Inside was Zak's private collection, items too disturbing or legally questionable for his public museum. Among dozens of human skulls and skeletal remains displayed on shelves, none had proper documentation. Federal law requires specific permits for possessing human remains. Zak had none. One skull immediately caught an FBI agent's attention. It sat on a velvet cushion under a glass dome like a prized possession. The label read, "Indigenous Artifact 500 plus years," with provenance papers claiming pre-Columbian origin. Zak had purchased it in 2015 for $50,000 from a private collector in Nevada, but something looked wrong. The skull appeared too well preserved for its claimed age. FBI forensic anthropologist Dr. Sarah Chen was called to examine it. Her assessment was immediate and alarming. This is not 500 years old. This is modern, maybe 30 to 40 years old. She pointed out fracture patterns on the skull consistent with blunt force trauma. The damage suggested homicide, not ancient ritual or natural death. This wasn't an artifact. This was evidence of murder. Standard procedure required DNA testing for modern remains. DNA was extracted from tooth enamel, the most protected source in the body, and sent to the FBI laboratory for comparison against the missing persons database. Usually results take weeks, but this time an answer came in days. The email subject line read, "Positive match." The skull was identified as Jennifer Martinez, missing from Phoenix since 1994. The FBI immediately notified Phoenix Police Department. The cold case unit reactivated the investigation. The original detective, now retired, was contacted and immediately expressed interest in helping. Jennifer's family had to be told after 30 years of searching. It was devastating news, but also brought relief. They finally had answers. Jennifer was dead. She had been murdered, and her skull had been sitting in Zak Bagans' private collection, purchased as an artifact and displayed as part of his macabre museum. The identification raised urgent questions. How did Jennifer die? Who killed her? How did her skull become separated from her body? Where were the rest of her remains? Who sold the skull to Zak Bagans? Was the seller the murderer? Were there other victims? And how many other skulls in private collections are actually murder victims rather than ancient artifacts? The DNA test that identified Jennifer Martinez had opened a case that would expose far more than anyone expected. In August 2015, Zak Bagans purchased the skull from a dealer named Robert Caldwell, a private collector based in Henderson, Nevada, who specialized in unusual artifacts. Caldwell had sold to Zak multiple times before. They had a trusted relationship built on years of transactions. Zak typically didn't ask many questions. Cash and cryptocurrency kept things simple and discreet. Caldwell contacted Zak directly with an enticing pitch. have something special for you. He claimed it was an indigenous skull of pre-Columbian origin, extremely rare and valuable. Provenance papers were included showing it came from a private estate sale, where the previous owner had been a serious collector. This was standard dealer language that Zak had heard many times before and never questioned. The initial asking price was $75,000. Zak negotiated down to $50,000, still an enormous amount for a single skull, but Zak wanted it desperately for his collection. He planned to eventually display it at the Haunted Museum. He believed it had dark energy that fit his brand perfectly. He paid half in cash and half in Bitcoin to keep the transaction partially off the books. Caldwell provided a certificate of authenticity that looked official with stamps and signatures. It claimed radiocarbon dating showed the skull was 500 to 700 years old. The origin was listed as southwestern United States with a documented chain of previous ownership. Everything appeared legitimate. All of it was forged. There were multiple red flags Zak ignored. No legitimate provenance traced back to an actual archaeological site. No permits existed for removing human remains from federal or tribal land. The papers didn't match the actual age of the skull. Caldwell couldn't provide original excavation records when asked. The price was actually quite low for a genuine artifact of this claimed rarity. Zak didn't conduct proper due diligence. He wanted to believe it was real. His ego and obsession with building the ultimate collection overrode caution and common sense. Zak now claims, "I was deceived by the seller and believed all documentation was real." He insists he had no reason to doubt authenticity and is horrified to learn the truth. His legal defense is being prepared around the claim that he's a victim of fraud, but investigators believe Zak may have suspected issues and chose not to ask questions. Willful ignorance is common in the questionable artifact trade. Collectors maintain plausible deniability by simply not asking where items really come from. The FBI immediately focused on dealer Robert Caldwell. Within a week of identifying the skull, agents arrived at his Henderson home with a search warrant. What they found inside would expose an operation much larger than anyone suspected and lead directly to the man who actually murdered Jennifer Martinez. When FBI agents raided Robert Caldwell's home, he immediately cooperated in exchange for a plea deal. He gave up his source for the skull, Thomas Vega, a 61-year-old man living alone on a remote desert property 40 miles outside Phoenix. Vega's compound was surrounded by miles of federal land with no neighbors anywhere nearby, the perfect isolation for someone with dark secrets. Thomas Vega had a history of violence, dishonorable discharge from the army, multiple arrests for assault, restraining orders from ex-girlfriends, a clear pattern of violence toward women. He'd moved to his isolated desert property in 1988 and lived there alone ever since, occasionally coming into Phoenix for supplies. His connection to Jennifer Martinez was chilling. Vega had been a regular customer at the diner where she worked. He developed an obsession with her over months of visits. Jennifer was friendly and professional, but Vega misinterpreted her kindness as romantic interest. He started leaving large tips and asking increasingly personal questions. Jennifer complained to her manager. Vega was asked to leave her alone. He became angry and defensive, then started following her. She never reported the stalking to police, not wanting to escalate the situation. It was a fatal mistake. On October 17, 1994, Vega had been watching Jennifer for weeks. He knew her schedule and routines. That night when she left to meet her ex-boyfriend, Vega followed. The meeting went badly and Jennifer left upset and alone. Vega was waiting. He approached her at a gas station with a knife and forced her into his truck. He drove her to his remote property where he held her captive for days before murdering her. He dismembered her body and scattered remains across the desert, but he kept her skull as a trophy, displaying it in his home for 20 years. In 2015, facing financial problems and mounting health issues, Vega decided to sell the skull. He contacted Caldwell claiming he'd discovered it on federal land, a common story for illegal artifacts. Caldwell paid him $15,000 cash, then turned around and sold it to Zak for $50,000. Both men profited from Jennifer's murder. When FBI agents raided Vega's property, they found evidence far more horrifying than anyone expected. Multiple burial sites were identified using ground-penetrating radar. Cadaver dogs confirmed human remains. Forensic teams began careful excavation. What they uncovered proved Jennifer Martinez wasn't Thomas Vega's only victim. The man was a serial killer who had operated undetected for over 30 years, and Jennifer's skull leading police to his door would finally bring justice for all his victims. FBI forensic teams descended on Thomas Vega's property with ground-penetrating radar and cadaver dogs. Multiple burial sites were identified across the 20-acre compound. Careful excavation began like an archaeological dig, but instead of ancient artifacts, they were searching for murder victims. What they found was horrifying. 6 burial sites total, each containing human remains. All female victims aged 23 to 35. The time span ranged from 1988 to 2016. Jennifer Martinez was the 3rd victim. 3 women had been killed before her and 3 after. DNA was extracted from all remains and compared to missing persons databases. 4 victims were identified immediately. 2 remain unknown, possibly undocumented immigrants or women whose families never reported them missing. Each identification meant another family receiving devastating news after decades of wondering. Victim number 1 was Lisa Hernandez, disappeared 1989, age 24, a waitress from Tucson. Her 89-year-old mother was still alive to receive the news. "I always knew she wouldn't abandon me. Someone took her. Now I can die in peace." Victim number 2 was Amy Patterson, disappeared 1991, age 29, a bartender from Flagstaff. Her sister had suspected Amy's boyfriend for years and carried guilt over false accusations. He was innocent. Victim 3 was Jennifer Martinez, whose skull solved everything. Victim 4 was Rebecca Sanchez, disappeared 1998, age 27, a teacher from Phoenix whose massive search effort involved hundreds of volunteers but found nothing. Her parents died without knowing what happened, but her brother survived to learn the truth. Victim 5 was Melissa Torres, disappeared 2009, age 32, a nurse from Mesa. Her case was recent enough that it remained active with a detective still assigned. Her family had held hope she might return alive. That hope was destroyed, but truth was finally revealed. Victim 6 was Christina Davis, disappeared 2016, age 26, a college student and Vega's most recent kill. Her investigation was still very active, and police had been close to connecting dots before his health declined. The pattern was clear. All victims worked service jobs where Vega could watch them. Waitresses, bartenders, nurses, all were stalked before abduction. All were killed on his property. None had reported their stalking before disappearing because they didn't realize the danger until it was too late. Investigators believe there may be more victims. Vega lived on that property since 1988, and they only searched his immediate land. The surrounding federal desert is vast and empty. Additional searches continue, but they may never find all of Thomas Vega's victims. Jennifer Martinez's skull didn't just solve her case. It exposed a serial killer and brought closure to multiple families who had waited decades for answers. With 6 bodies recovered and Thomas Vega in custody, prosecutors began building an overwhelming case. Physical evidence from the property included all 6 victims' remains with DNA profiles extracted and confirmed. Forensic evidence documented trauma patterns consistent with violent deaths. Personal items belonging to each victim were recovered. Most disturbing were Vega's journals, where he documented his crimes in detail. He kept photos as trophies. He saved items from each victim. The evidence was methodical and horrifying. After his arrest, Vega initially denied everything. "I don't know what you're talking about," but the evidence was overwhelming. His lawyer advised cooperation. Prosecutors offered a deal: plead guilty and receive life in prison or face trial and the death penalty. Vega confessed to all 6 identified murders. He provided details only the killer could know: how he stalked each woman, where and when he abducted them, what happened at his property, how he disposed of their remains, why he kept Jennifer's skull specifically. He needed money in 2015 and decided to sell it. What chilled investigators was his complete lack of remorse. He spoke matter-of-factly about torture and murder. Psychologists who evaluated him confirmed he was a classic psychopath. He felt no empathy or guilt. The victims were objects to him, not human beings. The timeline prosecutors established showed his first murder in 1989, then escalating frequency. 3-year gap to the second victim, then Jennifer in 1994. After that, the gaps shortened to 2 to 4 years between killings. His last murder was 2016. Then he stopped, but not because of conscience. A diabetes diagnosis had stolen his mobility. He physically couldn't hunt victims anymore. Otherwise, he would have continued indefinitely. Prosecutors filed 6 counts of first-degree murder, kidnapping charges for each victim, sexual assault charges, abuse of corpse, and illegal possession of human remains. Each charge carried potential life sentences. Arizona still has the death penalty, and prosecutors are seeking it. Victims' families are demanding it. The defense has no real strategy except arguing against capital punishment. They claim mental illness and childhood trauma, asserting brain damage from abuse made him not fully responsible. Prosecutors reject this completely. Vega was methodical and calculating. He planned each abduction. He avoided detection for 30 years. He knew exactly what he was doing. The trial is scheduled for 2025. The verdict is not in doubt. The only question is whether Thomas Vega will spend life in prison or be executed. Meanwhile, Zak Bagans faces his own legal exposure. While not charged with murder, he faces illegal possession of human remains and trafficking charges. Federal prosecutors argue he knew or should have known the skull was modern, not ancient. He's facing significant fines and potential prison time in a case completely separate from Vega's murder trial. Jennifer Martinez's daughter Sarah was 35 years old when an FBI agent called her with the words she'd waited 30 years to hear. "We found your mother." Sarah collapsed. 3 decades of questions were finally answered. The relief was overwhelming, but so was the horror. Her mother had been murdered. Her skull had been in Zak Bagans' collection, displayed like a prize, bought for $50,000. He had my mother's skull in his house. He never asked where it came from. He profited from her death. Sarah is filing a lawsuit against Zak demanding justice and compensation. Lisa Hernandez's 89-year-old mother received notification 35 years after her daughter disappeared. "I always knew she wouldn't abandon me. Someone took her. I can die in peace now." She buried her daughter properly 2 months after identification. Amy Patterson's sister had suspected and accused Amy's boyfriend for years. Learning the truth brought guilt over false accusations, but also vindication for the boyfriend and a chance for family healing to finally begin. Rebecca Sanchez's brother wished his parents had lived to see the case solved. They died without knowing what happened to their daughter, but he's grateful for truth and is planning a memorial service with strong community support. Melissa Torres's family held hope the longest since her 2009 disappearance was relatively recent. We can stop wondering. The nightmare has an ending, a bad ending, but an ending. Christina Davis's parents found purpose in tragedy. Their college student daughter was the most recent victim in 2016. She would want him stopped so he can't hurt others. The 2 unidentified victims represent families somewhere still missing daughters who don't know they're dead and can have closure. FBI continues working on identification, appealing for missing persons' DNA submissions. Someone knows these women. Someone is still wondering. The families formed a support group, bonding over shared tragedy and helping each other heal. They're advocating for increased cold case funding. Jennifer's case proves DNA databases work and could solve thousands of cases with proper resources. "My mother's death wasn't in vain," Sarah explained. "She helped catch a serial killer. She helped solve other cases. She exposed an entire industry built on exploitation and death. I'm proud of her legacy, even though she never knew she would change the world." The collective impact extends beyond their individual pain. They're pushing for legislative changes, better missing persons protocols, mandatory DNA submission for all unidentified remains, increased funding for forensic laboratories, stricter regulations on human remains possession. Their daughters' deaths are creating a legacy that will help future families avoid their decades of suffering. Jennifer Martinez and the other victims finally have justice, and their families finally have peace. Following Jennifer Martinez's identification, FBI seized Zak Bagans' entire collection from both his mansion and the haunted museum. Every skull, every bone, every piece of human remains was examined and tested. The scope was staggering. Over 40 human skulls and dozens of bone fragments. Most were labeled as indigenous artifacts or ancient remains. Very few had legitimate provenance documentation. Each one became a potential cold case waiting to be solved. DNA testing began on every testable item. The FBI forensic laboratory was overwhelmed with samples. The process takes months, and results come in slowly, but each result carries the potential to solve a murder, identify a missing person, or bring closure to a family. The investment is worth it. 3 additional skulls have already matched victims from different cases. One matched a California cold case from 2001. Another matched a Texas unsolved murder from 1997. A third matched a New Mexico disappearance from 2003. All were purchased from dealers as artifacts. None were ancient. All were murdered people. The investigation expanded nationally as the dealer network was exposed. Suppliers operated in multiple states, providing collectors like Zak with human remains. Some dealers knew the items were murder victims. Others practiced willful ignorance, asking no questions about origins. All are now facing federal charges for trafficking in human remains. The network that supplied Zak also supplied dozens of other collectors, and FBI is visiting each one. Other wealthy individuals, celebrities, and business people who thought they owned ancient artifacts are discovering they actually possess murder victims. More cold cases are being solved weekly. The ethical nightmare extends beyond murder victims. Even items claimed as legitimate historical remains raise questions about consent. Did indigenous people agree to have their ancestors' remains sold? Were graves robbed? Colonial violence is evident throughout the practice. Museums across the country are reviewing their collections, and repatriation discussions are accelerating. Every item connected to murder victims is being returned to families for proper burial. Indigenous remains are returned to tribes under Nagpare enforcement. International items are being returned to origin countries. Iraq, Egypt, and Cambodia are requesting back items stolen from their cultural heritage. Zak loses everything. Nothing remains of his collection. The haunted museum is closed permanently. The building will be sold and either demolished or repurposed. It's too tainted to remain a museum. No one wants to visit a tourist attraction built on actual human bodies. Las Vegas wants distance from the scandal. The property value has tanked. The macabre symbol is gone. The entire haunted object market has collapsed. Collectors are afraid of legal exposure. Dealers are shutting down operations. Legitimate anthropologists are relieved, calling it long overdue. Stricter federal laws are being proposed. The era of death memorabilia trading is ending. Jennifer Martinez's skull didn't just solve her murder. It exposed and destroyed an entire industry built on human exploitation. Thomas Vega's trial is scheduled for 2025 with a guilty verdict certain. The death penalty is being sought, and families are demanding it. He shows no remorse and remains in maximum security isolation. Robert Caldwell, the dealer who sold Jennifer's skull to Zak, pled guilty and received 15 years in federal prison plus massive fines. All his assets were seized to pay restitution to families. Zak Bagans faces up to 10 years in prison for illegal possession and trafficking of human remains. Multiple federal counts have been filed. All his collections are forfeited. He's fighting the charges, claiming he was deceived, but evidence shows willful ignorance. Civil lawsuits from victims' families will likely bankrupt him even if he avoids prison. Ghost Adventures is permanently canceled with all episodes removed from streaming platforms. His career is over, his name synonymous with scandal. Jennifer's daughter Sarah says, "My mother's death wasn't in vain. She helped catch a serial killer and exposed an industry built on death." The families formed the Jennifer Martinez Cold Case Foundation, advocating for DNA database funding and better missing persons protocols. Federal laws are being tightened. Human remains trafficking is now a prosecution priority. Museums are reviewing collections. The industry changed forever because of one DNA test that solved a 30-year-old murder and brought justice to families who never stopped searching for answers.